What you will start?
We have still 1 minute.
Brother, this is after dinner time to join.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
I think, but sir, we can start now. Chalo ka.
Okay. ठीक है sir. Good morning, everyone. I would request every participant to kindly switch off your mic because otherwise it creates disturbance and you will not be in a position to hear clearly. So therefore, I request everyone to be on the mute mode and listen to what Dr. Saab has to say. Now, this webinar on 4 pillars of education is an initiative of Manav Rachna Center for Peace and Sustainability, which is a center of excellence of Manav Rachna University. I welcome our esteemed guests, especially the main speaker, Dr. Karan Singh Saab, who is also the chairman of the advisory board of Center for Peace and Sustainability, and all the participants across the globe who are watching this webinar on 4 pillars of education. This center has been created, in fact, and for training, education, and training of the for peace and sustainability. It also helps in inculcating the values and peace of peace and sustainability among youth. It will also help us in promoting research in the area of peace and sustainability with a focus on creation of sustainable communities with an eye on health and well-being of all. It will also help us in supporting policy making in the area of peace at local, university, state, and national level through research and experimentation. And it will also help to promote collaborations and networking with other partners who are working in this similar area. As Swami Vivekananda said, education must provide life building, man making, and character making assimilation of ideas. He stressed on character building for service to the mankind. He said that people should be physically fit, mentally alert, intellectually strong, and spiritually elevated. And he believed that it is only education which can lead to individual achievements, which should be used for social enhancement, which can help in national regeneration, and can also have an influence on the global scenario as well. While we, as teachers, educate our children in our schools and universities, we have to prepare them to face challenges of life and give them skills and tools which would be in the form of learning and innovation. It will also have to give them the digital skills because those are required as of today, and also the career and life skills. So the skills like core subjects, the global awareness, the creativity, the innovativeness, collaboration, the flexibility, adaptability will become very, very important. And when we look at the life skills, the compassion, the honesty, the politeness, equity, respect, integrity, and safety will become important. Where we think that, because these are some of the things where our students or the communities today are having problems. We need to teach our students lifelong learning, because the skills which we impart today will become obsolete over a period of time, especially when we look at the digital skills and the knowledge content which we are considering to be contemporary today. But after some time, we need to give them lifelong skills to learn. So they should be self-learners, and we should educate them to accept people as they are, respect them, embrace differences, and avoid conflicts actually, and to avoid and to achieve all this, in fact, uh, this peace and sustainability, one has to practice it to experience it. In fact, we believe that Manav Rachna is the right platform to empower students that leads to their life transformation. Before I educate, with this just background of what we are doing in this Center for Peace, before I request our esteemed honorable guest to speak, I would request Dr. Prashant Balaji, who is the Chancellor of Manav Rachna University, to formally welcome Dr. Karan Singh sir. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon,
And
everybody.
just before one moment, Dr. Prashant Bala is the Chancellor of Manav Rachna University. He is President of Manav Rachna Educational Institutions across the country, President of Manav Rachna International Schools. He is also Treasurer of Educational Promotion Society of India. He is member of Confederation of Indian Industry. He is President of Faridabad Now Chetana Trust and Dr. O.P. Bala Foundation. He is also chairman of National Council on Education of SOCHM India and many other positions. Please, Dr. Prashant.
Thank you, Vatsab. It's indeed an honor, sir, that to welcome you here, Honorable Dr. Karan Singh ji, and I really want to thank you for accepting our invitation, and a warm welcome to all other panelists and participants from across the globe from different walks of life. Dr. Karan Singh ji's exemplary political contribution, we all are aware, whether it was being the first governor and president of Jammu and Kashmir, to being the member of Lok Sabha of for Udhampur, Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, the Minister for Health and Family Planning, Minister of Education and Culture, Ambassador of India to the United States of America, and member of Rajya Sabha for National Capital Territory of Delhi. But I think his contribution as a philanthropist, as a writer, as a poet, and peace ambassador is really invaluable. Thank you, sir, for being here. I think Bhatt Sahab has beautifully put in terms of what Manav Rachna means and his thought on what education should be. And I think today we all as educationists have been grappling with challenging times when there's a global crisis of COVID-19, and we all are coming up with new innovations, and some I think were reflected in the thoughts that Professor Bhatt shared today. And today's this dialogue is really around the report that was presented in 1996, that's known as the Delors report, around 4 pillars of education. And I think that report really gives us a great insight into for every individual or for any learning or any knowledge sharing to happen, what should be the core thoughts behind that. And I think today we have the champion of interfaith dialogue and understanding, Dr. Karan Singh ji himself, who's going to enlighten us and give his views on the 4 pillars of education and the skills that Bhatsa was referring to, whether it is the attitudes and values that we carry with our life, or the lifelong learning aspect he touched. Our founder, Dr. O.P. Bhalla, it was his vision and philosophy that we are carrying forward, and we have done some bit in our sphere in technology and management, and we are known for education delivery in that. But I think the big differentiator for Manav Rachna is the whole vision and philosophy of our founder that we are carrying forward. And I think this peace and sustainability and the focus to prepare youth to come up with different challenges in various walks of life is something that I think Manav Rachna has always been pioneering, and that has been a major focus. And I hope that today's session will be really enlightening one for all of us. And I once again thank Dr. Karan Singh ji, who has spared his valuable time today and is with us. And I look forward to hearing him and enlightening us with his thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Prashant Bhalla, President, Dr. Amit Bhalla, Vice President, Dr. I.K. Bhatt, Vice Chancellor, faculty, students of Manav Rachna University and the other institutions connected with it. It is a real pleasure to interact with you, particularly at a time when we are all locked down and unable to move. I have been lecturing all my life, but this is new for me. This is my first webinar. So this is a new experience for me to speak through this marvelous technology that we have. I think I'll have to now get used to speaking like this, because the old days of big gatherings and getting together and garlands and hearts and all, they seem to have gone. We'll have to change our mode of thinking. In any case, I hope you're all well, you're looking after yourselves, keep well, keep happy. It is always a pleasure for me to meet fellow educationists, because in my view, education is the noblest profession, because it involves the transmission not only of information, but also of values, the value systems that we were talking about. So what we've got to do is so much information. From that information, we've got to construct knowledge, and from knowledge, we've got to extract wisdom. Then only will our education become meaningful. There's a marvelous definition of education in Sanskrit, Ya Vidya Sa Vimuktaye. Knowledge is that which liberates. It liberates us from fear, from poverty, from narrow-mindedness, from ignorance, from fanaticism, and from negative thinking. And unless we get liberated from the negative factors, we will not really be able to blossom in the way that we should. Now, we in India are heirs to one of the most powerful intellectual and educational traditions in human history. The first documented educational system in India, the Vedic Upanishadic system, thousands of years ago. It was confined only to a small section of the population, but it was an extremely potent and luminous system because it revolved around questions and answers. Please remember, ours is a dialogic civilization. Or the Upanishads, which are the high watermark of our philosophy, are questions, and very sharp questions put by students and the replies from the rishis. So this question and answer is something which has come down to us for thousands of years as part of our tradition. And that is something we've got to now continue. But what we now need is a creative fusion between our ancient methodologies and wisdom and the new concepts and technologies that are emerging. That is a challenge today. Now, in 1995, UNESCO set up what it called a Commission for Education in the 21st Century. It is a very important report. The chairman was Dr. Jacques Delors, hence is known as the Delors Report. There were 15 of us from around the world, chosen in our individual capacity. And among other things, we covered a lot of areas. One of them, of course, was the point mentioned, lifelong learning. Learning doesn't end with your college. For example, by God's grace, next birthday I will be 90, but I'm still learning. So there's no stop to learning. Go on. For example, I'm learning today for the first time how to do a webinar. Something new I'm learning. So this concept that we should be able to learn is very important. And in the course of our report, we identified what we called the 4 pillars of learning. It's only one part of that report. And those 4 pillars of learning are what I'm going to put before you today. The first pillar is learning to know, the Jnana Yoga. Ano Bhadra Kritavo Yantu Vishwada. Let noble thoughts come to us from every side. Learning to know, the capacity to learn, is something which we've got to develop. A student has not only got to be a passive uh, object of the teacher, but has got to learn. Learning means you've got to understand what is being taught. You've got to ask questions as and where necessary. So the art of learning, the art of knowing is also something which has to be developed. It's not just passive learning that the teacher is speaking and the students are just making notes. So the capacity to know is, I think, the most important thing that we have to learn, the first pillar of that. And as I've said, the Indic religions are all dialogic religions. Hinduism is a dialogic religion. The Buddha dialogued with his disciples for 40 years. Mahavira dialogue. So we are in this dialogic mode. And we have to now have a creative dialogue with our students so that they can really grasp what it is that we are telling. So it's important to remember that our education has got to adapt to the new requirements. All this, whatever I learned at school, I'm sure is out of date. All the chemistry, all the physics, all the mathematics, all the geography, but I have retained the capacity to learn. That is what is important. Because knowledge will keep changing. Previously, we thought knowledge was once every 25 years, then 10 years, now 5 years, every year new knowledge is appearing. And so we've got to be receptive and have the capacity to adjust ourselves to the new wisdom that's developed. And I think this is particularly important because of these technological developments that are now going so fast that we're in danger of being overtaken by them. So we've got to have strong minds in order to learn. So that is the first pillar of learning, is the capacity to learn creatively and to continue to learn throughout your life. First. The second pillar of learning is learning to do. If the first pillar is learning to know, which is the Jnana Yoga, the second pillar is learning to do, the Karma Yoga. Unless our education teaches us something that we can do for society or for ourselves, it becomes meaningless. That is the point that is often being made. Much of the education that we have today, we turn out graduates by the lakhs and lakhs. But do we teach them any skills? Or are they unemployable? So therefore, the importance that we have got to teach them skills, I think, is cannot be underestimated. And therefore, we have many IITs, they are very high level and accepted around the world. But what about the ITIs? There used to be the concept that between school and college, you would go to an institution where you would learn some skill. So what in our report we've said is that people should be able to break off, go into these institutions, and then if necessary, return to the academic stream again. It's a new concept. You don't have to give up your academic stream. For example, if you graduate and after that you want to do a course in gardening or a course in plumbing or whatever, it doesn't have to be any very grand, and then you should be able to come back. But unless we introduce some measure of technical skill in our education, it is not good. It doesn't mean at all that we've got to give up the humanities, the liberal arts. They are essential. They form the intellectual and moral and spiritual basis of our education. But in addition to that, we do need skills. Everybody, the Gita says that we should be Shuchir Daksha. Everything we do must be efficient, must be perfect. No sloppiness should be allowed. I think that's now becoming very clear, even the way we run our cities and we run our institutions. Everything is sloppy, gand pada hua hai, yahan wahan. You go, the taps are left on and all. That's no longer acceptable. We've got to be very perfect in whatever we do. And this is one of the ways In fact, all of these are linked to the spirituality. Jnana Yoga is linked to the knowledge of the higher self. Karma Yoga is also a potent form of spiritual development. Kurvanneviha karmani jijivishet shatam samaha evam tvayi nanyathe tulsi na karma lipyade nare. The second verse of the Ishavasya Upanishad says, you have to work here for 100 years. You can't work if you are not taught anything. If you just flounder around, it's no use. So learning to do is tremendously important, and that is where this whole skill development. Unfortunately, you remember the +2 system was those streams and all that completely collapsed. Now we are at 12. What do we do after +2? Do we just drift into college and do an arts degree, or do we go to some kind of a technical institution? This is a very important point which I urge that you should think about. And with innovative technologies, as Dr. Bhatt was talking about, distance learning, open schools and universities, there's so many opportunities now for us to continue to learn how to do. So learning to do also involves, mind you, a positive value system. So what you must do should be useful to society, not destructive. Learning to do doesn't mean you learn how to set fire to buses. Learning to do means you do something positive and worthwhile for society. But that you have to continue to do all your life. In fact, yoga itself has been defined, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is skill and works. So those skills have to be imparted along with our other education. So the first Jnana Yoga is learning to know. The second pillar, Karma Yoga, is learning to do. Now the third pillar is learning to live together. I would call it the Sahayoga. Sahanavavatu, Sahanavavatu, Sahaviryam Karvavahe, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Let us work together, let us strive together, let us achieve together. Let there be no hatred between us. Old ancient Vedic verse. So learning to live together is very important, because the world today is torn by so many conflicts at every level, whether they are economic conflicts, they are caste conflicts, they are religious conflicts, ideological conflicts. How do we learn to live together? Now, learning to live together, to my mind, involves a value system. And I have identified 5 sets of values which are essential if we are to actually live together peacefully. The first is family value. We must learn within the family courtesy, consideration. If there's always tension and hostility within the family, how will the children grow up with a positive mindset? Khich, 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 24 ghante hote rahi. So you cannot be happy. You've got to have a happy atmosphere in the family, and it's got to be both ways. We've got to give children full respect and full understanding of their problems, but the elders also have to be looked after. It's a two-way traffic now. As you know, many elderly people now are beginning to be neglected. It's not new. Shankaracharya says this hundreds of years ago. Yavat vittopadan sakta tavat nij parivaro rakta पश्चात धावती जर्जर देहे वार्ताम पृच्छति कोपी नगे. सिर्फ जब तक पैसा है, as long as you have money, तो सब पूछते हैं भी नाना जी कैसे हैं, दादाजी मामा जी वगैरह कैसे. और जब पीछे बूढ़े हो जाए और पैसा ना रहे तो कोई नहीं पूछता. ये शंकराचार्य ने कहा, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ, शंकराचार्य ने कहा कई शताब्दियां पहले. तो ये अवगुण हमारे समाज में है और वृद्ध लोगों को हम छोड़ नहीं सकते. So we've got to learn to respect and look after our elders, and the parents also have to learn. Indian parents are too possessive. We think we can run the lives of our children. We can't. Remember, every person comes into this world with their own karma or their own genetic configuration, whatever you want to call it. And therefore, you cannot run. You can advise them, you can support them, but you cannot run them. You're going to force them. Even मैं डॉक्टर था तुम्हें भी जरूर डॉक्टर बनना पड़ेगा. You can't say that. Maybe he wants to be an artist. Maybe he wants to be a dancer. How do you know? So therefore, we have got to have that. First of all, is a generational thing within the family. The second is the man-woman relationship. That's also very important. And there again, we have an excellent ideal, the ideal of the Ardhanarishwari, of the men and women equal, not the old Eastern custom of women walking 4 paces behind the men, nor the ridiculous Western custom of women walking 4 paces in front. They must walk side by side because they are authors of life and of civilization. And therefore, the respect for the opposite sex. And this is particularly this terrible thing about the bio lockers or whatever they're called. I mean, these attitudes, misogynist attitudes towards the women is totally unacceptable. I mean, we've been learned, our culture teaches us to revere women. Says clearly, where women are not revered, the gods are not happy. All the gods have their spouses. In fact, the spouses are worshipped first. It is Uma Shankar, it is Radha Krishna, it is Sita Ram. The woman is always first. The feminine is always first. How can we therefore have these ridiculous, on the one hand, we have misogynist attitudes, on the other hand, we have homophobic attitudes, which are equally bad. Therefore, this attitude towards sex, opposite sex or your own sex, I think is something we have to really rethink about, because that the recent revelations are not a surprise, because that's what happens all the time. Whether it is with the opposite sex or with the same sex, there's the same cruelty, there's the same lack of empathy, there's the same domination concept. So we have to have within, so within the family, I'm saying the generational balance as well as the sexual balance, gender balance has to be kept in mind. So that's the first set of values. I'm going to give you 5 sets of values. First is family values. Second is societal values. Cleanliness, for example. Punctuality. It's nothing very great. I mean, in the West, you are supposed to be punctual, but in India, if you are punctual, people are surprised. I remember whenever मैं दिल्ली में बदनाम हूँ कि करण सिंह को बुलाओ तो वक्त पे पहुंच जाते हैं. मैं क्या करूँ, आदत से मजबूर हूँ. I cannot be late. I have to be punctual. That's not so. We are sort of live in the Kalaha Kridati Gachati Ayuhu Tadavina Munchati Asha Vayu Anadi Anand. That's not going to work. We need to be absolutely punctual. We need immaculate cleanliness. We need teamwork. We have never been short of individual greatness in every field, science, philosophy, sport, anything. We lack teamwork. So we've got to learn teamwork, in part that, and we must learn that societal values involve not only fundamental rights, but fundamental duties. I don't know how many people are listening and how many people among my audience know that there is a separate part in the Constitution of fundamental duties. I can't ask you to raise your hands because I can't see you. But nonetheless, please let me inform you. I was on the drafting committee of the fundamental duties committee, headed by Sardar Swaran Singh. And those were included in part 4A of the Constitution. It was the only part that was not then cancelled after the emergency. It was put in there. Please read those 10 duties which are put in the Constitution. If you have those 10 duties, you don't have to go to any other. I suggest that every classroom should have those 10 duties put up. So nobody knows about the duties. Everybody, of course, we are proud of our fundamental rights. We live in a free society. Our fundamental rights are justiciable. But fundamental duties are there also. So the stress in societal values, please stress the fundamental duties. Please read them, please understand them, and please try and live them. then only we'll be able to transmit them to the. I have the duties here, but I'm not going to read them. It will take too much time. So I've spoken of family values, I've spoken of societal values. Now I'm going to speak about interfaith values. I've been working in the field of interfaith for many, many decades. The interfaith movement is a movement which tries to bring together people of different religious faiths, not in a shastra, not to prove which one is superior, but to try and understand the basis of these religions. There are so many wrong prototypes that we have in our minds. We have wrong ideas. If you begin to understand the texts or the basic teachings of these various religions, we found that there's a lot in common. Don't get involved in theological debates. Half the world believes in reincarnation, the other half doesn't. That you can go on arguing for 1,000 years, you'll never come to a conclusion. But if you take issues, for example, the issue of the natural environment, issue of the welfare of children, issue of the welfare of women, if you take issues, then you find a lot in common between these religions. So the interfaith movement is very important. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to teach religion in our constitution. Fair enough, because there was a partition and there was a backlog. But we have thrown the baby out along with the bathwater. Along with religion, we've thrown out all our moral values. There used to be classes, if you remember, I do not know whether many of you remember or not, there used to be moral education classes. There used to be classes where you were taught what should be done, what should not be done. In Catholic schools, they were called something else. They had special classes about. But now you can't do that. So what we have to do, therefore, is to weave these values into our general education system. Value of helping humanity. Don't you, when you see lakhs of migrants walking back to their homes, walking 100, 200, 500 kilometers, they're Indian citizens. Is it not a shame and a disgrace that we are not able to give them transportation? We still have 1/3 of our population living below the poverty line. Millions of children go to bed undernourished. Millions of families shiver in the winter, are drenched in the monsoon, and suffer in the summer. They have no shelter. Until we can get rid of that, how can we call ourselves a great country? So, what we must try and do is that these values, and we mustn't ever dub any particular religion with a particular brush. There can be people from any religion who create problems. So what we've got to try and do, because this is a multi-religious country, it has always been. All the great religions of the world flourish here. 4 religions were born in India: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. 5 came from the West. Christianity came in AD 52, soon after the death of the crucifixion of Christ. We had the Zoroastrian religion, the Parsis. We had Jews for some time in Kerala. We still have some. And then we had Christianity. Then we had Islam. Islam came in 2 incarnations. The iconoclasts, the invaders, they are not looked upon with any good sense. They are the ones who broke our temples, shattered our beautiful structures. But they are not the only ones who came. There were others who came, who stayed here, who made a major contribution to India. There's also the Sufis. Don't forget the Sufis. The Sufi principles of love and insaniyat and hamahangi are very important. The biggest Muslim shrine outside of Makkah and Medina themselves is the Dargah Sharif of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, Gharib Nawaz, in Ajmer. Lakhs of people go there, bila lihaz mazhab wa millat, regardless of their. Even here in Delhi, you have the Hazrat Nizamuddin, where lakhs of people go to pay their homage. So when you get to spirituality, it overcomes these theological differences. And the interfaith movement, therefore, is very important. And interfaith values are very important. We must teach our students to try and respect other religions. You don't have to accept the religions, but at least respect them, try and understand. And do not go your life full of prejudice and hatred against another. That will destroy you also. So then that is third set. The family values, societal values, interfaith values, environmental values. Isn't it extraordinary that as a result of this lockdown, for the first time, I'm seeing a blue sky in Delhi? 50 साल से मैं दिल्ली में रहता हूँ, नीला आकाश कभी नजर नहीं आता था, अब नजर आने लगा. नए नए पौधे उभर रहे हैं, नए नए पंछी आ रहे हैं. It shows what disaster we have brought down upon nature. थोड़ा सा हमने मौका दिया, nature is regenerating. So environmental values we've got to teach. Again, go back to our ancient culture. Ours was a culture revolving around the environment. There are beautiful hymns. In the Atharva Veda, there's the Bhumi Sukta. 63 verses contain the most comprehensive and holistic statement of environmental values you can find anywhere. That's why they said that cutting down a tree was a great sin or पाप. ये देवी का वन है, ये शिव जी का वो है, बौली है, इसलिए that was the whole idea was to bring in some kind of reverence for nature. We've got to do that now because we have already perhaps gone past the tipping point. Global warming has gone so far now, within a few years you will see many nations are going to disappear. The island nations, which are just 1 or 2 meters above the ocean, they're going to disappear. The snows are melting, the ice melts in Antarctica and Arctica melting. Thousands and thousands of species have become extinct. We've polluted the air, we've polluted the oceans, we've polluted the rivers. We've got to rethink our values. Just because in our mindless quest for more and more wealth and more exploitation, we feel that we can use nature, we cannot. Nature is hitting back. I would go to the extent of saying that even this coronavirus is part of the hit back of nature because of the way we have misused nature. Or our strange eating habits, eating strange animals and reptiles and high protein diets and all. This is what is happening. This is not the first and is not going to be the last virus that's going to hit us. So it is time now. This is a wake-up call, this coronavirus. We should realize that if we go the way we are going, the human race is not going to survive for very long. So environmental values, we've got to inculcate them in the children. I know that many children do not get the opportunity to go around, but nonetheless, if you have a small garden, even a flower, to see eternity in a flower, as the poet says, or the mountains, the magnificent mountains, just seeing them. Kalidas speaks of the mountains. Astutarasyam dishi devatatma Himalaya nam nagadhiraja Purvaha parvatoya nidhi vagaya Stitaha prithibhya eva manada. The great Himalayas, great spiritual presence that is there. Just looking at the mountains itself is uplifting. We must teach environmental values, go to national parks wherever possible, go to zoos wherever possible, and try and take children out of simply the concrete jungle in which they are caught. Because global warming is no longer something in the future, global warming is upon us. We're in the middle of this, and we're going to face a lot of trouble unless we try and change the modalities of our thinking and of our action. And the fifth set of values, family values, societal values, interfaith values, environmental values, values for a global society. Now, all of us are nationalists. We love our country. Everybody loves it. Albanians love Albania. Greenlanders love Greenland, and everybody. We Indians, we love India. But let us not forget that apart from being citizens of a particular nation, we are also residents of planet Earth. We have only one small planet for us. There's no plan B, there's no planet B. Maybe half a dozen people can go to the moon, but that's not an alternative. And therefore, we must learn that the world ultimately, again, one of our great concepts, Ayam Nija Paro Veti Gananam Lagu Chetasam Udar Charitanamatu Vasudeva Kutumbakam Vasudha Eva Kutumbakam. The world itself is a family. What a great concept. Thousands of years ago, when you couldn't travel more than a few miles on foot, our rishis, our seers had this concept. In the final analysis, the world is a family. And unless we recreate that now, I know there's a big backlash now against globalization. And maybe there were some flaws in it. But the concept of the Parliament of Man, the Federation of the World, as the poet has put it, that must be there. In my view, I've always said our passport should say Planet Earth, India, Planet Earth, Pakistan, Planet Earth, China, because we are all in Planet Earth. We forget that. We are joined whether we like it or whether we don't like it. Look at the virus. Even the very arrogant and great so-called developed countries, the thousands of people are dying there. They're not able to do anything. So the world is connected. And in a period of crisis, we become more aware of these connections. So that idea of global society, vision, values for a global society, so that we are taught, yes, we are Indians, we are proud Indians, we will defend India, but we are also citizens of the world. I think this is something which we have to inculcate into our educational system, whether some people may like it or not, because there are some people with fundamentalism, let me tell you, always results in disaster. I've seen this in my own lifetimes, where it is a Tamil Elam resulted in death of lakhs of Tamils, whereas the Khalistan resulted in the death of lakhs of Sikhs, whereas the Islamic Caliphate resulted in the lakhs of Muslims. These fundamental policies finally destroy the very religion that they arrived. So let there be no fundamentalism. Let us try and understand the importance of other countries and let us try and respect them. Those are what I would call global values. So now I was on my third point, you remember. The first pillar of learning was learning to know, Gyan Yoga. The second was learning to do, Karma Yoga. The third was learning to live together, Sahyog, and these 5 sets of values. And the fourth and final pillar of learning, learning to be. Very interesting. I think it's the first time that in an international report we were able to bring in the importance of learning to be. What are we basically? Life is not a meaningless journey from the womb to the tomb. There's more to life. There's more within us. There's the inner light. Every religion talks about it. Christians call it the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. The Sikhs call it the Ek Onkar. Ek jagat sab jag. The Sufis call it the Noor-e Ilahi. The Hindus call it Vedaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasam. I have seen that great being shining beyond the dark. That's within us. That inner light we've got to find. It's not far away. It may be there too, but it's here also. Every human being encapsulates a spark of the divine. And moving towards that inner center, that inner light, is learning to be. It's so sad that many people skim over life the whole without once looking within, and by the time they realize what is happening, their life is gone. So while we do everything, while we do our work, while we do our karma yoga, or jnana yoga, or saha yoga, let us also move inwardly toward our inner center. Let us try and see what is it, what is that pearl of great price that everybody mentions, the Holy Grail that is within us. Kiranamaya pare koshe virijam brahma nishkalam tat shubhram jyotisham jyotis tatat atma vido. In the furthest golden sheath resides the immutable Brahman. That resplendent light of lights, that is what the knowers of the Atman do. So learning to be, whatever way you do it, you can do it by meditation, you can do it by prayer, you can do it by bhakti, you can do it by Zen, you can do it by Tai Chi, whatever you want to, but do it. Look within. Look within the infinite possibilities inherent in the human personality. Do not just neglect them. We walk over a treasure every day without knowing that the treasure is there. And that treasure is within us. So that is the final. The inner quest is every way as significant and important as the outer quest. So therefore, taken together, I suggest, friends, that learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be, they represent an impressive infrastructure of lifelong learning and represent a very good paradigm for us to develop. And for those of us who are engaged in education, I think it's tremendously important because we must. Do you remember that glorious photograph of planet Earth, the NASA photograph taken from outer space? That showed our planet as it really is, a tiny speck of light and life against the unending vastnesses of outer space. So beautiful and yet so fragile. That is the Mother Earth, Dharti Mata, Vasundhara. We have to nurture this earth. We have to nurture human consciousness. And that, friends, is the message that I would like to leave with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for such an enlightening talk. Prashant, you were about to say something, please.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to thank him for the enlightening words of wisdom, and it was really good to hear. And I think I've been in the field of education for the last 23 years now in terms of driving educational institutions. But I think the deeper meaning and the purpose, I think the way it was put forward, it was really great to hear. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, once again for such an enlightening talk. And as said by sir, it was really truly a pleasing experience listening to you. I'm very much sure that all the participants must have been highly benefited from your rich experiences that you have shared with us today. And from the question session also, I can see that many of the participants have sent their appreciations for the webinar, and they have congratulated Manav, Rachna as well for organizing the webinar where you are the panelist and sharing your thoughts with them. So thank you, sir, once again. And sir, we have number of questions from our audience. With your permission, I'll take a few because we are short of time. We don't have much time to take all the questions that we have with us. And most of the questions have been already answered in your talk as well. And I'm sure that our panel members also have some questions going on in their mind, and they would also like to ask their questions to you. So let me have the honor of inviting our very first question from Dr. Prashant Bhalla. So please, if you go with your question first.
I think broadly many of the aspects that you have already covered, but I think one thing that still goes in my mind, that in today's context you refer to the 21st century skills also, and that like even the 4 pillars of education, the way you mentioned, I think the thoughts were clearly given as education, it's what we should look at. But don't you feel still, I think in the curriculum part, when we talk about whether what is being delivered in schools and either in university, we need to really reorganize or restructure everything, like in terms of how we have been doing things in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is what we hope. This is much awaited new education policy. 6-7 साल से कह रहे हैं new education policy. I haven't seen anything. And unless we restructure the whole thing on the lines, on these broad lines, I don't think we'll be able to ever get there. We'll be still stuck in the old system. So I agree with you. But institutions like yours and universities like yours, and deemed universities, you can make a difference because you have the flexibility to introduce some areas which the government institution may not make. That's an advantage.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for answering the question. Amit sir, would you like to ask any question to sir?
Yeah. It was very nice to hear to you, sir, what you were saying. I have a particular question for the teachers, like in the learning to live together, the Sahayog, what you were explaining, we're talking about 5 values. So is there something specific for a teacher, a specific value which is required by a teacher or even by an employer or an employee?
In fact, our report does have a very special section on teachers. You're absolutely right to raise this problem because unless the teachers absorb these values, they can't pass them on to the students. So I would say there's no particular value, but this whole value system that I have tried to put before, the teachers must first be motivated. They must understand the many dimensions. Then only can we get them. So you raised a very important point, which I should have mentioned. That is the role of the teacher in these values. I agree with you. It's absolutely correct.
Very rightly said that teachers play a very important role in the life of a student and they are the role models. So next I'll move to Sanjay sir for his question, sir. If anything you have to ask specifically to sir, which he has not covered in his talk.
नहीं, सर को मैं पिछले 20 वर्षों से सुनता आ रहा हूँ बहुत सारे प्लेटफॉर्म पर। मुझे एक मौका मिला है जब मैं एक बिजनेस स्कूल का डायरेक्टर था और सर उसने चीफ गेस्ट थे, कॉन्वोकेशन एड्रेस दिया था। तो सर को मैं बहुत समय से सुनता आ रहा हूँ, उपनिषद पर, वेदा पर, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता पर, सूफिज्म पे, पोएट्री पे, किसी एरिया में सर से बात करें तो अपने आप में एक बहुत ही सुखद अनुभव होता है। सर आपने कहा या विद्या सा विमुक्तये योगः कर्मसु कौशलम, तो ज्ञान योग में और कर्म योग में कौन सा श्रेष्ठ है सर?
इसमें मुझे लगता है कि दोनों आवश्यक है, क्योंकि श्रेष्ठ तो आदमी चुन सकता है। चार योग है ना हमारे यहाँ, ज्ञान योग है, भक्ति योग है, कर्म योग है, राजयोग, 4 प्रमुख योग है और चारों की आवश्यकता है। तो ज्ञान और कर्म दोनों चाहिए। अगर केवल कर्म हो ज्ञान न हो तो कर्म वो निषेध हो जाता है, और केवल ज्ञान ही हो और कर्म न हो उसका भी कोई अर्थ नहीं रहता। तो दोनों को बराबर चलना चाहिए मेरे।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, so much. Sir, I'm going to share with you that Bhatt sir is not able to join because of some internet issues, and he has. So we'll continue with the questions from audience. I have questions from the audience, but I'll take 2-3 questions which I find that they have not been covered in your talk. The very first question is, sir, that one of the audience has asked, as a writer and poet, do you think learning to be can be achieved through art and culture? If yes, then how?
Yes, in fact, again they raised something very important. So I couldn't cover everything. Art, literature,
Yes,
and music and dance are essential for the development of the human psyche. And unless they become part of our lives, we will not flourish. For me, music is absolutely essential. And therefore, absolutely, through music, through art, through dance, you can achieve a great deal of inner power learning to be. Yes, the reply to your question is yes, indeed. And in fact, the fine arts are a very potent and powerful methodology for inner growth.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering this. Sir, my next question is from the Mr. Ranjan Kumar Singh from NSDC, and he has mentioned it thrice that I should ask this question to you. How do you graduate from learning to do to learning to know?
No, you first of all, learning to know comes first, and then
Yes.
learning to do. So what I said is, First of all, you must get the knowledge, and then you must also learn the knowledge, then you must also learn what to do. So the two things, it's the same question earlier. The Jnana Yoga and the Karma Yoga have got to be combined, because without the combination, it does not work. So I think
Very,
that's how
very,
it should be.
very right, sir. And sir, I'll take two more questions with you. And the next question is, if we look at the ancient Indian Vedic education, it
Yes.
included all four pillars of education. Then why don't we promote it so openly?
Well, you can't promote the Upanishads openly, because that will be like teaching religion, which is not allowed in the Constitution. But you can promote the values. All the values I've spoken of are not linked with any particular religion. They're universal values. For example, friendship, helpfulness, punctuality, working together, teamwork, and so on, compassion. These are all universal values. So we should draw from our very rich experience, I think particularly from the Vedanta, but they can be introduced. Other religions also have the same values in different ways. I think I happen to be a Hindu, so I've read our own scriptures, and I think they're very clearly laid down in this. But we don't have to confine ourselves to one set of texts. We can take from wherever we get good ideas.
Which means that we should pick up values from every scripture that we have, and we should live with that.
Christian charity. Charity is very important in Christianity.
Yes.
The way Mother Teresa used to go around, the compassion. That is not done in many other religions. We used to throw our children into the gutters, and Mother Teresa would take them out and bring them up. Now, is that not something we should learn? So from Islam, we can learn the fact of brotherhood, no distinctions between people. And we can learn a lot from every religion. I don't want to go into that as a very detailed thing. We can learn.
Right, sir. And sir, the last question, which I think that most of the audience have in their mind with this COVID-19 situation, and the question is that, do you think the e-education that we all are thinking to integrate in our conventional delivery mode after this COVID-19 situation, will it be able to address each of the four pillars that you have discussed about?
Well, first of all, I think that e-education is now going to become an important part of education. For my generation, is totally. I'm the pre-computer generation. When I was at school, there were no computers, there was no television. People won't believe that humanity existed for 5,000 years without television, and all the great philosophies were born without television. They were. All of this that is now come, I think we should take advantage of it. E-education is tremendous. I mean, the fact that you can teach large numbers of people in different modalities is something unique, and it's something we must develop. And of course, whatever we teach, we should try and infuse these values into them, whether it's by education or by personal education. I don't think e-education will actually transplant or totally take over the education system, but it has to be an important part. I welcome that.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for adding so much to the knowledge bank of each one of us today. And moving on further, let me have the honor of introducing Dr. Amit Bhalla, our Vice President, MREI. Dr. Amit Bhalla symbolizes a 21st century educationist and has made a distinct contribution to modernizing and revitalizing the existing education system. He has been responsible for bringing word into the classroom through smart partnerships with some of the world's most established and reputable universities and colleges. Dr. Bhalla believes in balancing extracurricular activities and academics and has created world-class sports facilities in the university and other campuses of Manav Rachna. So may I request Dr. Amit Bhalla ji to give his concluding remarks and the vote of thanks. Amit, sir, please.
Thank you, Singh. First of all, sir, thanks a lot for sparing out time for this webinar with all our students, our faculty members, and a lot of important people from different parts of the society. It was really encouraging when you see a person who accepts that it is his first webinar at the age of almost touching 90 years. So you have yourself proved that there is no age to learn. So this is the first lesson for an online delivery, and this motivates us.
It is only a number. It is
Yeah,
only a
it's great, great. Yeah, and the way you explained us all the four pillars of education, it has it's like it has summarized, and it is very clear to most of us, I'm sure, that there are few things which generally people ask from themselves about the different aspects which you have touched today while in your address. Like first was definitely, the first pillar, the learning to know, where we're talking about Gyan Yoga. So your statement, as I have just noted down that as well, that we have to develop the art of knowing. This is one skill set which, as a teacher, I think they should imbibe in all the students. That should be the first stepping stone towards learning. The second was the learning to do, that is the karm yoga, what you just discussed with us. It is the developing the skills so that we can contribute positively for the society. Very rightly said, developing skills which are not positive for the society, which can't be used for the growth or progress, that is something which person should avoid, and we should be positive towards developing the skill sets required for that. And the five values what you shared in the learning to live together, the sahyog, the family values, the societal values, the interface values, the environmental values, and value for our global societies. I see this is something what we always learn from our elders. They always talk about sanskar, they always talk about values, they always talk about respecting others. So this is going on from different generation to generation. And as very rightly said, when I also studied in a convent school, we used to have a slot for moral science, and now these things are not there. We also got an opportunity to interact with a lot of elders in our family, our parents, our grandparents, our grandparents. They used to spend a lot of time with us. So just sanskar or values, they were being passed on to us, to even our students, even our kids at home. So I see that this is one of the very, very important part where we should know how to live together. Today everybody has created their own separate space within their house. Even if you see a small house, a 2 bedroom or a 1 bedroom house or a 4 bedroom house, you will find separate space for everyone, and nobody is allowed to intervene, or nobody is allowed to enter into that space or give them comfort in that space. So I see that this is one point which is very, very valid to this next generation, which is the future of this great country. And of course, learning to be, where giving some time to yourself, appreciating and looking within, because as very rightly said, that treasure is within. So this is also one of the takeoff from your discussions today. It was really nice, and a very summarized way of talking and telling us about what is life, जीवन क्या है और कैसा होना चाहिए. So I like to thank you, sir, for your time, and all our participants, even our officers from university, our faculty members, both the vice chancellors, Dr. Sanjay, Dr. Bhatt, Dr. Prashant Bhalla, our chancellor, and of course the organizing team, who has done a fantastic job in creating this online webinar. The only thing which we miss in this webinar is that we can't see the audience. So
yeah.
that
Well,
that is one thing. You need to have that eye contact with the audience. So maybe in next webinar we will think of.
I can imagine the audience. I've spoken to so many audiences around the world.
Yes. So once again, thank you, sir. Thank you for your guidance, for your blessings, and hope to see you soon in the campus, where we would like to take your advice on what all we are doing, specifically in our Center for Peace and Sustainability. Thank you very much for sparing your time, sir, today.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Go off screen now.